behalf of VeriSign and TV18, I welcome you to a very special panel discussion on the future of internet growth in India. This is both a retrospective and a look ahead. The year 2011 is a very fascinating year. It marks 50 years of the internet, and even more interestingly, it marks 25 years of the .com domain. To discuss the future of the internet, both the look back and the look ahead, I have with me a group of very eminent panelists. I'm going to dive straight into the discussion, and my first question to you, Sanjeev Bikhchandani. 1.1 billion people in this country, 81 million online, 35 million SMEs in this country, and 4 lakh SMEs online. What's the problem? Why is this picture so non-rosy?
I think there is a very large number of SMEs who perhaps are doing business the way they've always done it, and thus far it's been good enough for them. But I think as 3G comes in, as tablets become cheaper, as broadband wireless comes in, as wired broadband expands, personally what I expect is over the next 3 to 4 years, you'll see maybe 300 million people, maybe 400 million people who are online in some form or the other. And that's when I think over the next 3 or 4 years, you'll see serious expansion. Because the internet will move from being a class medium to a mass medium.
Right. Mr. S.K. Gupta, I'm going to throw that same question at a slightly different form. 700 million mobile connections expanding at the rate of 10 million. If what he said is true of SMEs, why is it not true of mobile telephony in India?
There is a need. It's very difficult to say that at this point of time the need is not there. The problem has been the infrastructure. If you look at, if you had to provide some sort of internet connection in different places, we should have the infrastructure. Today we have been depending mainly on the DSL connection, which is based on the wireline. We have not given a spectrum till very recently. Spectrum has been given for 3G very recently. There are cable industries which can provide the internet, but the contribution towards that, if you look at, is very, very meager. Therefore, somewhere we have to look at that what infrastructure is required, especially at the backbone side, not on the front-end side, which we can cover up with the wireless and all these things. If that is done, you will find that growth will be pretty fast. It's not that growth is not there, but actually infrastructure is not there to provide or rather meet the demands of the people.
Right, I'm going to throw that same question to Mr. Ravi Shankar, who's the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology, Department of IT, Government of India. So we saw 2 different arguments coming here. One saying not enough demand, the other saying infrastructure not ready. Even if the demand was there, we don't have the infrastructure yet. Seems to me like a classic chicken and egg problem. What's going to happen first, chicken or egg? Demand or infrastructure? What do you build first?
Well, I would put it that with the existing infrastructure, we should leverage and see to it that we are able to have more demand. Whether there is adequate demand with the existing infrastructure is one poser. I would like to take the dialogue a little different and say that today, while we say that infrastructure is not there, I would also like to say that awareness is something that is an area which needs to be addressed. Awareness generation about the use of the existing infrastructure is something which I would like to harp upon.
Dinesh, 500,000 customers, 30,000 paid customers. Your picture sounds pretty rosy to me. You're in the SME sector, one of the fastest growing sectors, huge contributor to the GDP, huge employer all over India. Now, I understand the complicated arguments about infrastructure and demand, but if I am an SME sitting in Delhi or Bangalore or Bombay or Gurgaon, for me to put up a website and to start an online business, I don't need to worry about whether the pathway is ready or whether the nodal points are ready or whether the internet exchange is working. It's not that difficult anymore, clearly. Right? Why don't enough people do it?
So, I think again and again, why is the demand not coming? Because there are not compelling enough utilities being created for SMEs. So most of the utilities got created for consumers. Be it video, be it Naukri, be it everything. So there is not enough investment that has gone into creating compelling
What are some of the utilities that SMEs are looking for?
I think access to market, access to technology, access to finance, and access to talent. These are the 4 large pieces which an SME needs. Now, we are trying to address one aspect of that, which is access to market. Now, most of the time within India, if you really see, the information itself is not available. So the SMEs, there are 26 million of them or 35 million of them. If you really need the name and addresses of each one of them, it's very difficult to really find them.
Isn't that clearly a business opportunity for somebody?
That's what we are trying to do here. And once that happens, there is a lot of buyer segment which is looking for that information, which is trying to transact with them. And once that happens, SMEs will find a reason to come online.
I'm going to bring in Rusty Lewis, Executive Vice President at VeriSign. Rusty, does this entire argument sound a little alien from where you're sitting?
It is interesting coming from outside of India looking in. My perspective is that this is one of the most interesting markets in the world. You're already at 80 million users. You're the fourth largest internet population base in the world. So while you have some challenges in infrastructure, you're no longer emerging. You are on the map in a very real way. So I think to get businesses online, to your point, Mr. Shankar, it's all about education and awareness to show the benefit of a business and how they can generate more traffic, how they can have a storefront that's out in front of their customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how they can get emails and interact with their customers. They can project a very positive and professional image. So we're working with partners in this country to make it really easy to get a website and to educate folks and to educate businesses on the benefits of being on the internet.
Dr. Gulchan Rai, Director General, Department of IT. I'm going to take off from where Rusty Lewis left. When cable television launched, I didn't see an awareness program telling people watch cable TV. When mobile television launched, I didn't see a government campaign saying mobiles have launched, please use a mobile. The benefits were self-evident. Why are the benefits of the internet not self-evident to small businesses? Shouldn't it be obvious by now?
No, it's obvious, and I would like to present the entire thing in a different perspective. Actually, in the area of electronics or IT, the whole circumstances are different. You got to create the product first, and then the demand comes up. Nobody, nothing is generated here and there. Nothing is invented here. You got to create a product, and the demand comes up.
Okay.
And if you look at the percentage by a factor of 4, the whole product for the using internet, there was advantage, benefit came up, product came up, the industry came up with the product, government came up with the product, then the demand created.
On that note, it's time to take a short break. We'll see you on the other side. Dr. Khan, you've heard various arguments, and I'm bringing you in last for a good reason, because the academic perspective usually trumps the commercial and the government perspective, because you have nothing to do with anybody else. Right? They all have interests with each other. But being an academic, give us your view. We have a killer app called Facebook, 500 million users, which is now the third largest country in the world. It's India, it's China, India, and Facebook. Yeah. Right? Almost no advertising, no campaign, no awareness, completely based on user pull. And Facebook clearly is ramped up infrastructure to service 500 million almost overnight. Yes. Does Indian business lack that killer app, one killer application that's going to bring businesses in a flood onto the internet?
The killer app, as you said, will come if businesses want it. But, you know, it's important to look at what SMEs do in India. It's not just 35 million SMEs. It's another 40 million in the informal sector. So we're looking at a near...
Micro, small, one-man operations, one-woman operations.
100 million firms. Okay. And they don't want to be on the web. The reason they don't want to be on the web is who is their customer? The SME typically deals with a larger firm. It's one customer or two. Why would you want a web presence to do that? The second reason is that most of our transactions in India, commercial transactions, are non-monetized. They are cash transactions. Okay. We don't want to pay taxes. So why would you want a web service where your transactions are tracked?
That's a brand new angle to the discussion.
1% of us have credit cards. So what do 99% do with a website that will allow them to do transactions with a debit or a credit card? And finally, it is the security issue. Even now, when I use a credit card to work on the Indian Railways side, I am worried. Will this be a secure transaction? And therefore, that becomes very critical to explain to everybody that, look, it is your hard-earned money. We will protect it. It will not go anywhere. There won't be credit card frauds. There won't be, emails from Nigeria.
Even if there is, you're insured against that credit card fraud.
Even then.
Okay. Then my next question to you is, who's going to build these cats? Who's going to build the security cat? Who's going to build this cash transaction cat? Is it going to be a regulatory issue? Is it going to be a private industry issue?
I think what's happened, especially in the regulation on money, is this whole exogenous factor of the US depression. You see, what that has done is that it has told all our bankers, especially our Reserve Bank, that be careful. Don't do what the US has done. And the reason why we are doing so well in India and did not face the crisis was we were very tough regulators. So we want to be tough, we want to be slow. And therefore, this takes a backseat. The scams haven't helped. there is no reason why anybody is going to say that, why isn't it being pushed and come early. So there is a regulatory aspect to it, which I think is the primary aspect, and that when it eases up.
Excessive fear, you think?
Excessive fear by the regulator, understanding what regulation means, and on the other hand, this financial inclusion. See, if 70% of the population does not even have access to banks, it's a far cry from having access to
the internet,
and
to understand the concepts of e-commerce,
of using credit card. So that will be the time when SMEs and whatever. Certainly, Facebook doesn't need credit cards, and that is why you have 500 million there.
Right. I'm going to change topics a little bit. We spoke about internet and business first. I'm going to switch to internet and governance, and regulation is a good point to take off. Rashti, I'm going to come to you again. Gordon Moore said that the processing power of a computer is going to double every 18 months, giving rise to the famous Moore's law. From what I understand from your reports at VeriSign is that the .com and .net domains are growing at 600 times the speed of Moore's law, right? 600 times. And Moore's law itself is pretty hard to catch up with. By the time you buy a computer and take it home, it's pretty much obsolete by the time you unpack it. I'm going to throw the same question to you and to Mr. Ravi Shankar. How is the US government coping with this rate of growth? Is regulation, is government, is policy, is the law even able to catch its breath and keep up with this rate of growth?
Certainly it requires a partnership between government and private enterprise to keep up with the rapid growth.
But typically government lawmaking they don't like private participation in lawmaking.
Well, I mean, the reality is, in terms of the internet traffic that we see every day on our network, about we see 60 billion requests for connections to the internet every day on our network, and we project in the next 10 years that will grow 1,000 times. So as a private enterprise, we have to invest in the infrastructure to build that out. And then, of course, we do have to cooperate with governments to figure out how to put the security layers that Dr. Khan talked about to make sure that people can connect with confidence. If people are going to use the internet and it's going to realize its full potential, people have to be able to depend that it's reliable, it's available, and it's safe and secure, that private information will be protected. And that's going to be a collaborative effort, I think, between both government and businesses.
Mr. Ravi Shankar, same question to you. From the Indian government's perspective, you saw Dr. Khan talking about what I would classify as excessive caution in our desire to protect ourselves against the vagaries of the internet, to actually restrict the amount of commerce that happens on the internet. What is the Indian government stance on this?
When we say that we would like internet for all, we mean that we would like access to devices across the rural masses who do not have access to it. It is in this genre that the government is creating the infrastructure of the common service center. One common service center for a geographical area of 6 villages. Now, it's in that rollout activity of about 1 lakh common service center, the government has been able to roll out about 85,000 plus common service centers. Typically, a villager would have to walk about few kilometers to the nearest village in order to access it. I think access becomes the primary function, because that is the role of the government in order to ensure that infrastructure is available.
And on that note, I'm going to come to the last aspect of this discussion, what I call internet and society and internet and citizenship, and more importantly, what's called the conscious internet. Recent examples in both Tunisia and Egypt have shown that even in countries which are relatively uneducated, the power of the internet to bring down governments is awesome. And it's not very far from the day that the power of internet can be used to bring down private industries. If you think a CEO of a company is a crook, you are going to have shareholders using the internet to bring him or her down, and bring him or her down very, very quickly. Sanjeev, do you think Indian businesses and Indian government is ready for this kind of onslaught from the power of the people, when internet transfers power to the people?
No, I think first of all, it's great that internet transfers power to the people. Secondly, the internet did not bring down the government. The people were able to connect faster and mobilize. So it was facilitated, yes. And I think it's about transparency, it's about people power, and I think this will bring about more accountability, and I think that's fine.
Right.